can I repay? What is the fee? Who knows when that time will be gone? 'Cause now I have my life back. I want it to go on. You gave to me without any return. When I was on fire, you took the burn. You took the burn. You took the burn. You took the burn. You took the burns. 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 You took the burns from me. You took the burns from me. You took the burns from me. You took the burns. You took the burns.
Welcome to The Bridge with Kira. I'm your host, Kira Young, and you found me on People's Internet Radio. Before I introduce my guest, I have a few announcements. Tonight in the United States, 2 a.m. becomes 3 a.m. and we begin our daylight savings. For 3 weeks, our shows are going to be on at 8 p.m. and in the United States, but it'll still be midnight in the UK for those weeks between basically tonight and the 29th. So that makes the 14th, the 21st, and the 28th shows will be at 8 p.m. in the States. Also this week, in other news, I found out that my new satellite internet provider will never have a fast enough ping rate for me to be able to broadcast myself. So Vin has been kind enough to host these shows. And then we also, we're going to be experimenting and seeing what we can do and try to figure it out. So be patient with our delays and our technical issues, while we, work it out in this age of, no net neutrality for me. Also, right now, I wanted to let you all know that I've been working on starting a nonprofit. It's called Yellow Thunder Food Sovereignty. And phase 1 is starting this year with a community garden. And while I get my paperwork together to start the nonprofit, and there's also a lag of time where you get your 501c3 status. And so I'm looking for nonprofits that I can use their umbrella until I receive that status. We're going to be a full working organic farm, food bank, seed bank, educational organization, giving families who want to grow healthy food for themselves the opportunity to do that. And the vision basically comes from a shattered dream. When I first lived in this area, the northern Shenandoah Valley, I worked with a church in trying to get a food bank together because this rural area has very little food bank, and there's all this land to grow healthy food, and people are hungry and eating highly processed foods and very unhealthy because of it. So that is the hole that we're hoping to fill. We're going to crowdfund the startup fees, and we're going to eventually get a food truck or maybe more than one going with organic food, native dishes, fusion with modern dishes and other types of dishes, but all healthy. We're also going to have 2 major crops. For our first 2 crops will be sweetgrass and garlic. And sweetgrass, we can braid that and sell it at powwows and things. And then the garlic is just really a low maintenance crop to start out with. So that's what's going on in the world of Kira. Also, I think we had some issues with our guest, and I think we lost him. Is that correct, Vin?
No, I think he's there now.
Oh, okay. All right. So my guest today is a musician, singer, songwriter whose beautiful tune, Slow Burn, you heard during the intro. You can find him on ReverbNation.com. Welcome to the bridge, Kenneth J Nash. Welcome to the bridge for real this time, Kenneth J Nash.
Hello. Yeah, let's hope this connection lasts.
Yes. So tell us about your newest two songs that we just played, and where you're going to be and what you've been doing.
Okay. They're from my new album, The Fall of Eden, which came out in October 2014. I've been touring around the new album over the last few months, and I've got festival season on the way, and lots of opportunities to get out there and play.
Is this your debut album, or do you have ones before this?
No, there are a lot of previous. Actually, this is the first album that I've recorded. However, some of the earlier ones were limited editions, so they've gone out of print, so to speak. But I'm always planning the next album, so yeah, there's I might be re-recording some of the ones from the previous albums with my backing singer Fran for some duets, and that album's going to be coming out before the end of this year. Yeah.
So where can people find your music?
At my website is the best place, which is kennethjnash.com. You can go to the store there and you can order a copy of the new album on CD, which is by mail, or alternatively, if you want to download it, you can get it on iTunes, or you could stream it on Spotify or SoundCloud. Plenty
of options. No reason not to check it out. And do you have any tour dates you'd like to announce as well? There's UK listeners.
Yeah, sure. Well, I've just been booked for the Isle of Wight Festival for this year, which is in June. I'm also playing, where are we? A variety of different festivals throughout the year, including Into the Wild, which is down near Brighton. And also, I'm just wandering around my hotel room trying to find my diary. They're in England, they're in Northamptonshire. I play a monthly night there at a little village pub in a village called Irchester. The pub's called the Carpenter's Arms, and we put a night on of singer-songwriters, troubadours, spoken word, and the odd band here and there as well. And they're usually the third or fourth Saturday of each month. But if anybody wants to find out any more about my shows, probably the easiest thing to do is go to the website, which is kennethjnash.com. You can find all the shows listed there.
And who is the woman who's singing harmony with you in that first song, Slow Burn?
That's Fran Taylor. She's a wonderful singer-songwriter, and she's been recording with me for the last couple of years, and also coming out and playing live at gigs and festivals as well. And she's just got a wonderful voice, and I first heard her about 3 or 4 years ago, and it took me a year or so to track her down and get persuaded to come and sing on my songs.
Beautiful harmonies. I noticed on the ReverbNation.com, I noticed that your music or genre is kind of classified as Americana. Can you describe what that is and just tell us a little bit about it?
It's a tricky one. Sure. I mean, there's so many different boxes that you can put music into. Here in the UK, it's hard to define exactly where my music sits. It's somewhere between folk music, country music. There's a bit of blues in there, there's a bit of soul in there, there's a little bit of gospel in there. And I guess by labeling or putting in all of that into one box, it comes under Americana, which is to say that it's a traditional form of music which seems to stem from America.
Yeah, as I get older, I'm more appreciative of all those different mixes, especially blues and folk music, and especially the harmonies as well. Actually, we have a lot of those type of harmonies that go on at powwows, Native American singing, and there's a lot of gospel influence in Native singing as well. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds really interesting. I'd like to come to one of those.
Well, you should, and you're invited. if you come to America. So definitely.
I'm drinking tea in my house.
So when did
I'm drinking Red Bush tea. It's wonderful.
When did music get serious for you, or is it serious?
It's always been serious. I've always loved music. I was first and foremost a musician playing electric guitar in a band when I was about 12 or 13. So that's when it sort of started. And then ever since then, I've been involved in music one way or another. Writing my own songs and going out as a solo performer really only happened about 4 or 5 years ago. It's taken a long while to get to this point, really. But I suppose the thing was I didn't have anything to write songs about previously. And I needed those life experiences in order to give me the material to write.
The craft of writing songs, did you pick that up formally or informally, should I say, or both?
Completely informal. I'm completely self-taught with songwriting and with guitar playing. I've developed my own finger style of guitar playing, which is kind of based around the Mel Travis flat picking style, I guess. But bringing it more into a sort of a folk feel. But yeah, no, it's all self-taught, and it just comes from listening to certain artists and having an appreciation of their music, and just writing in. I've always written poems, and I guess changing something from a poem to a song just happened one evening, and after that point, it just seemed to all click into place and make sense.
Wow. I also am a poet who just began writing songs as well. That's amazing. But I want to learn how to play guitar as well.
Well, that can
but
be done.
My fingers are kind of arthritic,
practice.
so.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But what the heck? Do it anyway.
Exercise for the fingers. Can't be bad.
Mm-hmm. So, would you like to listen to another song? Ben, we got one more.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that'd be wonderful.
Okay.
Music rising into the cool air while you danced under fairy lights. And she just couldn't dance. Not like she thought that she could. And it just didn't matter. You just loved the way that she moved. The way she moved. Just love the way she moved. She liked a summer holiday with the Spanish sun on her skin, and sitting at night in the hotel gardens where we danced under fairy lights. And she just couldn't dance. Not like she thought that she could. Just didn't matter. You just loved the way that she moved. The way she moved. Just loved the way she moved. Just loved the way she moved. Just loved the way. Just couldn't dance. Not like she thought that she could. And it just didn't matter. You just loved the way that she moved. The way she moved. Just loved the way she moved. Love the way she moved.
all right. Excellent. So we've been monitoring the chat room, and people really liked the cello in that. They thought it was a nice touch. And I also
There's
have
cello and double
a
bass,
few other
actually.
questions from the chat room. Is it? It's beautiful. Really nice touch the way it was put together.
Yeah. Thank you.
So the other question that came out of the chat room was if you would discuss your influences and how your music has evolved and changed over the years since you began to now.
Yeah, of course. Of course. Well, in the early days, I was in bands and I wasn't writing the songs, but we were playing. Although, we did do some Bob Dylan covers, so folk has always had an influence on me, but it was more rock-based being a younger man. As I've got older, I've mellowed, and for a long while I was a DJ that was playing out like a lot of hardcore sort of rock music mixed with drum and bass and things like that. But then when I went home, the stuff that I would listen to was more like Tim Hardin, Simon and Garfunkel, Bob Dylan, and Johnny Cash, and Lou Reed, Leonard Cohen, all those sort of songs. And I would say that my biggest influence recently was 5 years ago. I went to see one of your countrymen, a Texan called Josh T. Pearson, who came over to the UK and played a gig at the Junction in Cambridge, and I got to meet him before the gig and have a chat with him, and he was a huge influence because he did an album, The Last of the Country Gentlemen, which if you don't know, you should make sure you get a copy of it. I know it was a big hit in the UK. I don't know how big it was in America, but and so he wrote this album, which was all about a breakup, and it was inspiring to me that you could write something in the first person perspective, about your life, that you could really put pen to paper about everything that was going on in your head and in your heart, and put it out there. And I guess that was probably my biggest, most recent influence. I've also been touring with some really talented musicians, supporting them at their gigs. People like Mark Geary, who's an Irishman with dual citizenship. He's an American who lives in New York as well, and he's an Irish singer-songwriter in the vein of, if you don't know him, you might know Damien Rice, Glenn Hansard, and that's all been a big influence on me as well. But then equally, just listening to things like Lou Reed when he was with the Velvet Underground, that sort of lo-fi, stripped back, but real production. So in other words, it really feels like somebody's pressed record in the corner of the room, and they just managed to capture it. And that's kind of how I record. I try and capture everything to give it that live feel, the real feel.
So that country influence really influences you in a way that kind of musically allows you to tell a story about yourself.
Yeah.
And
yes.
Yeah, so
it does. It does.
That's one of that is the thing that I love.
All country songs.
Country music.
Yeah.
Sorry about the delay.
Me too. It's very real. That's okay.
So I wanted to know what you think about Nick Cave, since I'm a big Nick Cave fan, and I think that he does that storytelling in a really unique way.
Well, I feel bad for not actually mentioning him as one of my influences, because there's several clips of him on YouTube where it's just him and a piano playing some things, and Into Your Arms, I think he's playing on one particular thing. It's a songwriter session that's somehow found its way onto YouTube, and it's just him and a grand piano. Into My Arms, I mean. But yeah, he has been influenced, because back when he was in the birthday party, maybe pop in for a cup of tea and a bit of a jam, It didn't happen, but I live in hope. I'm back down Brighton again soon, so you never know. I'll keep an eye out for him. If I meet him, I'll give him your best regards.
I have met him before many years ago, and actually he was my first person that I ever sent a poem of mine to, and he wrote me back. And I was about 18 time. And then I met him shortly after in 1989 in Boston. And then after that, I went to London to go to school, and I had met, I was in Trafalgar Square, and I I looked over at this guy and I said, "You look like Roland S. Howard." And he was like, "Well, that's because I am." So, that was shortly after that in 1989 as well. But, when I first started listening to Nick Cave, this was like 30 years ago. I was a teenager, maybe 15 years old. My mother walks in the room and she's like, "Who are you listening to?" And I said, "Oh, it's Nick Cave." And she goes, "Well, no wonder you like Nick Cave because I raised you on Leonard Cohen."
Yeah. Do you like
and
Tom
he
Waits
says that
as well?
Leonard Cohen and yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Tom Waits and Johnny Cash. Yeah.
It's all good stuff.
Are you familiar with J.J. Grey? Right now,
No.
his new CD, his new CD is #1 on the blues chart right now. It's called Old Glory.
Okay.
He's amazing. I have to recommend J.J. Grey to the world because that's some serious talent right there. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about songwriting.
Yeah, sure.
When I hear people talk about writing poems and songs, it's kind of like an experience that sort of starts suddenly and then it takes over. The process itself sort of takes over and becomes more than just yours.
Yeah.
So do you know what I'm talking about? Can you tell me about that
Kind of,
in your process?
Yeah. In my process, the original spark was, I don't want to go into too many details, but it was something that happened and, to someone very close to me, and I was helpless, and I wanted to put my feelings down into music, first of all, initially into a poem, just to get it out there, like I always had done, just as a release, and then it just so happened, it seemed to the meter of the words just seemed to fit into a piece of music that I'd written at the same time. And I suppose initially it was more sort of chanting over the top of it to get it to fit, and then when it did fit, it was then finding the melody. And then it became sort of more and more intuitive. I kind of knew that all those early songs, that they weren't going to be great. I knew that they were only steps on the way to some much better songs. And obviously, as you do everything, you practice something, you craft more and more, you refine your skills, and you develop new skills. And I think the songwriting process for me now is still the same. Sometimes it can come from a poem. Sometimes I end up writing poetry because I have a melody, just to try and get a couple of days away. And I've written another song today. So, it just happens, and you just go with it. But understand that the early songs you start with are not going to be your best, but they're the step on the way to a much better song. Can you hear me?
Sorry, Kenneth, I think we've lost Kira.
Okay.
Oh, no, she's back. There we go.
I'm back.
Okay. I'm back as well.
Before you lost me, you were talking about your process and how your first songs really, they're not going to be your masterpieces, but they're a really important part of the process to becoming your best work.
Yeah, that's it. And also sometimes there can be certain passages that you've written in some of those early songs, or even some of the music that you wrote for them, which finds its way into other material later on. I keep I'm not that neat and tidy with my songwriting books. I've got books filled up with ideas and words and pieces of music, and sometimes I'll just delve into a book, open up a couple of different pages, and just try and put two things together that never went together before. And sometimes it works, and then it leads to other things, and sometimes it sounds straight. But, you've got to keep trying, haven't you?
How important is it to have a studio that you can use when you're producing your own music? Or do you think it's fairly easy to do it on your own now?
I think it's very easy to do it on your own.
Studio.
I think it is easy to do it by yourself. I've done my albums have all been done myself, and that in itself is another talent that you improve on and you master. I mean, I've recorded all of mine generally within I live in an old Victorian hotel that's been converted into apartments, and I record them all in one of the biggest rooms in the apartment that I have. But I'm also playing around with the idea of actually, because all the equipment I have is transportable these days, I'm also playing around with the idea of taking the equipment to certain locations and maybe trying to pick up on the vibe of that location, whether it be I don't know, a tiny secluded chapel maybe in the middle of nowhere, or whether it's in the middle of the woods, or a hut by the sea, or there's so many places that you could go to gather the vibe of the place and put that into the recording that I think would improve the listening experience as well.
I could not agree more. I have some plans for doing that myself. I want to get the sound of the creek out back in some of my songs that I'll be doing, that I'm working on right now. So I think that's, some people do that. They have like the sound effects, in their music that are pre-recorded. But I like the idea of getting into, your surroundings and having that whole, not only soundscape be part of the song, but also your own reaction or feelings of being in that spot itself.
Yeah, quite right. I mean, I did, on this album, I did use the church bells on one song, which is about a church that's actually featured in the song. So it's kind of interesting to put the two things together. And that was kind of, it got me thinking then, that that idea could be developed even further, so that if there is a particular place that a memory is linked to, you could go to that place and record the song there.
Yeah, powerful.
Yeah.
Do it. Let's see. More questions. What are the locations that you've done this so far, or is this the plan in the future?
Sorry, you broke up on me there. Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, what are the locations that you've done your recording in, or is this something that you're planning on doing?
It's something I'm planning on. And I haven't done it yet, but it is in the pipeline.
All right. Other questions from the chat room are: can you read and write music, or do you write it by ear? And
it's all
recording?
by ear. Yeah, no, it's all by ear. I'm getting to the point now where I can hear notes and and I know what the note is, but I've never been able to read music. I've always seen it as a hindrance to getting that emotion across. And I know there are some very fine players that can, play to recite music on their chosen instrument, but for me it was always about having the instrument in my hand and just finding the notes and finding the soul in the music and going with it, and not worrying too much about writing it out. I mean, when I write songs, I might put the name of the chord next to where it would fit in the song, but that's as far as it goes. And I have to have some very talented musicians to back me, because they always ask, when they first play with me, they always say, "What key is this in?" And I'm like, I haven't got a clue.
That would be me too. It's all by ear. But actually, I think you make the best harmonies by ear, because you just feel it and it just happens.
Yeah. If you're writing music from the heart,
definitely.
then surely, if you're writing the words from the heart, then surely the music should come from the heart too.
Have you done any videos?
Not any videos in the sense of something you might see on an MTV channel or something like that, but I've had lots of live concerts recorded in the past, and it is something I would like to get into, but I'd like to. I'd rather actually supply the music to be used in a film, like a short story. That would seem to make more sense to me, if the story could relate, or if the music could relate to the story, rather than some sort of pop packaged, production piece, which is just goes completely against the grain of sort of who I am really, you know.
Yep. It's kind of along the same lines of writing a song by ear. There's a quality to the self-taught artist and the self-taught musician that, like you said, there are, you know, musicians who can read and write music that have this same quality too. But I don't know. I don't even know the word I want to use for this quality that I'm looking for. But it's for lack of a better term, like a tapped in way of creating, I guess, either your art or your music or your writing. So can you tell me about that if you have thoughts about that? I mean, I hesitate to sort of label it in any way before you get the chance to express it yourself, if you know what I mean.
Sure. You did break up a little bit at the middle of that question. I'm really sorry. Could you, I'm sorry to ask you to repeat it, but could you?
Yeah. So I hesitate to label what I'm sort of getting out here before giving you the opportunity to talk about it yourself. But there's this quality that you frequently find in self-taught artists and musicians, poets, that's kind of like, for lack of a better term, a tapped-in quality, something that,
right, I see.
You know, tapped into something deeper or something bigger. But I just don't want to label that before giving you a chance to talk about it yourself.
Okay, well, I see it quite clearly. I see it that there are musicians that are artists that create something original, something real, and then there are performers who are interested in the performance part of it. For them, the kick is not so much what the material they're doing, but the reaction to that material. And I think I fall firmly into the first category. For me, performing was not the reason that I set out to create the art. It's as a consequence of creating it that people want me to perform it to them live. That's fine. I don't mind doing it, but that was not never was the intention of producing the music. When I first started, I would never have dreamt about performing it live at all. It was purely and simply a channel for me to use in order to express myself, and it just became the way that it became that I was going out performing it. Does that explain it better?
Yep. Yeah. Yes, it really does, actually. And that wasn't even how I was looking at it or seeing it. So that's really interesting, the performer versus the person who's really just got to create this creation that wants to come forth, and that being the motivator, or what causes you to create your song is that it wants to be created, instead of I have this need to perform and, to feed off of that, to feed off the audience and things like that. That's a whole nother level to it that wasn't your intention.
Not at all. I can cope with being on stage, but I am quite a shy person. And, I still get embarrassed if people come and ask me for autographs afterwards. I find it really embarrassing. It's, I like to think that people can just come up and talk to me rather than put me on any sort of pedestal. That's not really why I'm in this. I didn't have any visions of becoming a famous celebrity. That's not what this is about. And that's the way I want this to continue as well.
Just doing your thing. Yeah. Well, I can relate to that too. I think that, those of us who have that tapped in self-taught quality don't have the need to be fed by the performance or the attention that the performance gives. And like you said, it's embarrassing. It's sort of, cringeworthy. It's like, that's why I really love powwow singing, because people actually, when you're singing at a powwow, people actually are focused on the dancers, because they're so beautiful and they're the ones dancing, And some people rarely notice who the singer is. You're just sort of in the background, and I like that. And you're on the same level. You're not on a stage or anything. You're on the same level as everybody else, the dancers. But there is this quality of the dancers and the singers. There's this energetic exchange that goes on between us. That's really, I think it's sacred. Whatever it is that happens, it's something sacred and relational. And that's the only way I can describe it. You all become something bigger than your individual selves during that moment where you all become the song together.
That's in all cultures, isn't it?
Yes, it is, yeah.
But that getting together and sharing music together, it almost, if you could go to any culture in the world, you would find them doing it, and some of them dress it up alongside, or it becomes part of religion, doesn't it? Like gospel essentially is music that's come from that worship of all those people getting together under the banner of Christianity. It's all very interesting, all of this, but their music is the thing that touches everybody. I guess that's one of the reasons why I love it so much.
So, which setting do you think lends itself better to this type of musical experience that we're talking about? The festival or the pub? Or it doesn't matter, it just happens when it happens?
It's different every gig. I mean, I do enjoy intimate gigs. I love playing to tiny audiences in tiny rooms where you can hear a pin drop. But then equally, some of the festival gigs that I've played are amazing. I play a lot of spiritual retreat type festivals where everybody's come in and they're all very, very tuned in to the mood in the room, and as soon as the music starts, it's just absolute silence. And I think anywhere where you can get that peak of interest, which allows you then to actually tell the story. Because as I say, I'm not there to impress people with my singing abilities or my guitar playing abilities. I'm there to tell a story, and so if they can hear that story, then that becomes important. And you can see those audiences that get it, when they have the quiet room, they can hear the story, and it means so much more to them. And that then, obviously, from my point of view, is ideal.
I've actually talked about this very thing with other musicians. How it's not a lost art, but it's the art of listening to the song or listening to the story. It seems to be sort of fading a little bit, and it's special to be able to get that type of audience that really wants to listen to the story and is there to hear it.
Yeah. It becomes the that you search for, or this thing that I search for those venues and audiences. But, I'm blessed because more and more so now I'm finding those audiences in the most unlikely of places. In the old days, I was playing anywhere. Any time I got an invitation to play, I'd take up on it. But I'm trying to be a little bit more cautious now and try and ensure that I don't play the same areas too much. That I don't oversaturate things. But also that when I do put a concert on, that it's got that intimate feel, and that I can get something out of that then, knowing that people have been able to relate, knowing that some of the people who come and talk to me afterwards relate my songs and the stories that I've had to issues that they've currently got, and they talk to me about those. And I recently I did a concert for the homeless and dependent people of a town that's near where I live, and it was a very touching and very rewarding evening to compare stories with some of these people and share some love and some laughter with them. And that for me is probably, I would say, one of my favourite gigs that I've done this year so far. Yeah, it's a very special night.
Yeah, times are really tough in the U.S. as well. The middle class has been evaporating for some time now, and a lot of people who, in their family life have kind of made it out of poverty and into the middle class have fallen back into poverty again, despite, being educated. And it's because there's no jobs. The only jobs there are service jobs.
Yeah.
And those are kind of designed for teenagers. So, it's hard to make a living on that, but that's all there is, even for people who are college educated. So, this changing world is, call for, that we have to, come together and realize how easy it is to fall into that position, where you lose your place to live. It's really easy. Like, most people are kind of like a paycheck away from that happening, very thing happening. So, so we all have to help out when we can. And, I'm glad that you could do that. There's a lot of that kind of thing going on in the U.S. as well. And, that's the reason why I want to do this, food sovereignty project is, there's a lot of people working really hard, full time, and they're still, qualify for food stamps and the food bank and stuff like that. And, so then you go to the food bank and the only food they have available is like poisonous processed garbage that, you can't work full time and eat that kind of crap and, stay ahead of the game. So,
No. It's
and it seems like the artists
in the
Go ahead.
In the UK, after the Second World War, when food was still obviously in short supply, and people were encouraged to grow their own food, and I think more people should be doing that. You should get land together and start growing our own food for ourselves. And then we can eat fresh food, and everyone will be healthier.
Seems like artists and musicians are all the kind of people who are interested in this right now too. Eating healthy food that you grow and kind of living a simpler life. And, I don't know what it is, if that's part of that tapped in quality that, the artists and musicians have, that it's something that's needed right now.
I think that a lot of musicians, particularly people like myself, who have been through experiences, you begin to truly understand the values of the things that are worth something in life, the things that aren't. And I think that's why you will find that opinion amongst musicians, because some will have been in that position themselves. And it takes me back to one of my favourite jokes. I'm going to try and tell you this joke even with a time delay. And this joke was told to me by Josh T. Pearson. What's the difference between a pizza and a musician?
What's that?
A pizza can feed a family of 4.
Oh boy, yeah. I've got a family member who's, a really good musician and singer, songwriter, and he, had to get a regular job because even with a kick-ass CD out and touring and stuff like that, it's still, you can't feed your family on that, and it's kind of like, we all have to do the 9 to 5 too to support it, and hopefully maybe someday it'll turn into the real thing, but don't hold your breath, because it doesn't always happen. It doesn't mean that you're not talented if it doesn't. It just means that you're doing what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. But I'd rather be true to my art than change my art into something that I felt was going to earn me more money. And I'm sure your relative will. that's why going and getting another job means that you don't have to change your art. Your art can be real. It can be everything you want it to be. You don't have to worry about market forces or and money from it.
Yeah. That changes it. Definitely changes it if you're worried about that. And that's what happens to a lot of musicians as well once they are pressured to keep producing in an unnatural way.
Yeah, it happens. It happens, and it ends up breaking a lot of bands up.
Speaking of bands breaking up, there's this phenomenon that I've also run into being a member of a powwow drum is that, in powwow singing, the drum kind of connects you because we all sit around the same drum and we play the same drum together and sing the same song together. And it just sort of connects you. So whatever's going on in the other members' lives, it starts going on in your life too. And things like, spark and fly, and you either work your stuff out together or you at some point have to part ways. Do you find that, is that what you're talking about in bands and stuff breaking up as well?
It's very often with bands, people's levels of commitment are very different, and you get some people that are more intensely involved than others, and others that have other things going on in their lives. This is the trouble. I've been in lots of bands, and I'm currently in a couple at the moment. But it's finding time to get everybody's diaries to sync in together, and that's why certainly in the last 5 years, going out and playing solo a lot of the time, so having that freedom not to worry about, can we get everybody there? Can we get the drum kit there and all the rest of it? It's just simply just me and a guitar, and that's it. If I'm really going to push the boat out, it might take a couple of guitars along.
I like that simplicity myself. My music is me and a drum, or me and a drum and my family. So we have other members like that live in other states and stuff, and if they join us, if they can get there, that's cool. But if they can't, me and my husband and son can pull it off.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds wonderful.
So are there any other things you'd like to cover while you're with us? Yes, I'm here. Sorry, I was checking the chat room. Are there any other things you want to cover while we're having this conversation?
No. I think we've talked about quite a lot there, and it's been really good talking to you, actually.
It's been great talking to you too. I think we're going to call it a night early tonight, and let you continue with your songwriting while you're at the shore. And I appreciate the time that you've given to share your music, and I hope that everyone goes to your website and checks your music out. And I wish you the best with this tour, and invite you to come back anytime you like.
Thank you, Kieran. Thank you. I will.
Have a great night. Thank you, listeners.
You too. Thank you, listeners.